Okay, so let's dive right in.
Yeah.
You sent in this Medium article called "How Can You Be Reasonable in an Unreasonable World?" And
It's a good one.
I think we all kind of feel that way these days.
For sure.
Right, like everything's just getting
A lot.
more chaotic and intense out there.
Absolutely.
So what we're going to do in this deep dive is try to pull out some strategies from this article that can help you, the listener, stay balanced and make good decisions, even when you're surrounded by
all this noise.
All this noise.
Yeah, it's tough.
It's tough out there.
You know, one thing I thought was really interesting about this article is how it starts.
Okay.
It doesn't just jump into giving you all these tactics.
Right.
It actually starts by acknowledging something that I think we often forget.
Yeah.
Which is that we're wired for emotion, not just pure logic.
That's true.
You know?
Yeah.
We like to think we're these rational beings.
Totally.
But
But we're not.
We're not always.
Right.
And the article kind of points that out right at the beginning.
I mean, yeah, you just have to look at how we react in like the heat of the moment.
Absolutely.
Like, let's say, an argument that suddenly escalates. It's obvious.
Things can get out of hand.
Emotions can sometimes hijack our rational thinking.
Oh, yeah. It's like a total hijacking.
Yeah.
And the article even gets into a little bit of the neuroscience behind this.
Okay.
So you've probably heard of the amygdala.
The amygdala.
Part of our brain that's basically in charge of that fight or flight response.
Fight.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, when we perceive a threat, and that threat can be real or just something we're feeling strongly about, the amygdala can actually override the more logical parts of our brain.
So it really is like a hijacking.
It is. That
explains a lot.
Yeah.
You know, I've definitely had moments where I reacted purely on emotion.
Sure.
And later on, I'm like, whoa, where did that come from?
We've all been there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that time, I spilled coffee all over my keyboard.
Oh, my God.
Right before a deadline.
Oof. Yeah.
I nearly lost it.
I can imagine.
Like, it wasn't logical.
Right.
But the frustration was just so overwhelming in that moment.
I get it.
Yeah.
So, but what's interesting is that the article makes a really important point about this whole thing.
What's that?
Which is that emotions aren't the enemy.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They can actually be incredibly valuable. Think about it.
Okay.
Emotions signal our values. They protect us from harm.
Okay.
They even fuel our creativity and our capacity for empathy.
Okay. So it's not about like ignoring our emotions then?
No, not at all.
That seems kind of impossible anyway.
Right. It's more about managing them.
Okay.
The article uses this great analogy.
Okay.
It says emotions are like wild horses.
Oh.
They're powerful and they can be incredibly useful. But if you don't learn to ride them, they'll just run wild and take you wherever they want to go.
I like that.
Right.
That's a good one. So how do we become like better emotional equestrians then?
Well, that's where the article's emphasis on self-awareness and reflection comes in.
Okay.
These are tools that really set humans apart. We have this amazing ability to step back from our immediate reactions.
Yeah.
Examine our feelings.
Okay.
Consider the bigger picture.
So it's like hitting the pause button on that autopilot response.
Like hitting pause and choosing a more intentional direction.
Exactly.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the specific things the article suggests for building self-awareness is journaling.
Oh, yeah. Journaling is great.
Now, full disclosure.
I used to think journaling was a bit a little fluffy.
I know what you mean.
But I actually tried it for a couple of weeks.
Okay.
And it was surprising how much it actually helped.
Yeah. Did it help you identify
like
emotional triggers?
Identified those emotional triggers and patterns. Like you realize, I always get grumpy when I'm hungry.
Totally.
Or I tend to avoid certain topics because they make me anxious.
Yeah.
And that awareness is gold.
That awareness is everything.
Yeah.
It's like holding up a mirror to your mind.
Yeah.
You can actually see those subconscious patterns that are driving your reactions.
Interesting.
And once you see them, you can start to change them.
So the article isn't just about like feeling better. It's about making better decisions.
Better decisions.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
So the article outlines 5 practical strategies
for building
good stuff.
Habits of rational thought.
Right.
Are you ready to dig into those?
Yeah, let's do it.
What's the first one?
Okay, so the first one is mindfulness.
Mindfulness.
Now, I know mindfulness is kind of a buzzword these days.
It is.
But the article explains it in a way that really clicked for me.
Okay.
It's about paying attention to the present moment without judgment.
So you're not trying to, like, empty your mind.
No, you're not trying to empty your mind.
You're just observing.
You're just observing.
Your thoughts and feelings.
Without getting carried away by them.
Exactly.
Okay.
All right.
So it's like creating a little space.
Yes.
Between the thought or feeling.
It is.
And your reaction to it.
It's that space where reason can step in.
I like that.
Right.
Okay.
And the article specifically talks about how even just a few minutes of mindful breathing each day can have a profound impact. Wow.
On your ability to handle stress and make clear-headed decisions.
You know, I've actually found that to be true.
Really?
Yeah. I started incorporating like a short mindful breathing exercise into my morning routine.
Okay.
And
how's that working out for you?
I swear it helps me approach the day with a lot more calm and focus.
That's great.
It's like hitting the reset button.
I love that.
On my brain before the craziness begins.
Before the day gets away from you.
Yeah.
It's amazing what a difference those few minutes can make.
Really is.
So building on mindfulness,
the
next strategy is self-reflection.
Oh, okay. Self-reflection.
Which we've already touched on a bit with the journaling.
Right.
But the article goes a little bit deeper than just keeping a diary.
Okay.
It's about asking yourself those tough questions.
Ooh, tough questions.
Like why did I react that way?
Okay.
What assumptions am I making? Could there be another perspective I'm missing?
Okay, so it's like taking an honest inventory.
It is.
Of your thought processes.
Yeah. And that can be uncomfortable sometimes.
It can be really uncomfortable.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's so important.
It is.
If we want to make better choices, we have to be willing to examine our own biases and blind spots.
Yeah, that's tough to do.
It is. But
important.
Yeah. And self-reflection isn't about beating yourself up. It's about learning from your experiences.
Okay.
And making more conscious choices moving forward.
So mindfulness is about being present.
Yes.
And self-reflection is about understanding your patterns. What's next?
Yeah. All right. Next up is a big one.
Okay.
Especially in today's world. Seeking out diverse perspectives.
Oh, a diverse perspective.
This one is so important.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to get trapped in our own echo chambers.
It is.
Especially online, where we're constantly surrounded by people who agree with us.
Yeah, totally.
But if we only ever hear one side of the story, are we really thinking critically?
No, I don't think so.
Right.
Yeah.
The article points out that true critical thinking requires us to expose ourselves to viewpoints that challenge our assumptions, even the ones we hold dear.
The ones we hold dear.
That's hard.
It is, but so important.
So how do we do that in a way that's constructive?
That's a great question.
Like, it's not like we should just go around picking fights with people who disagree with us.
Not at all.
Right.
It's about being intentional.
Okay.
About the information we consume and the people we interact with.
Okay.
So make a conscious effort to read articles or books that present different viewpoints.
Right.
Engage in respectful conversations with people who have different experiences and beliefs.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like expanding your
mental map of the world.
You're expanding your mental map.
The more diverse perspectives you encounter, the more nuanced and informed your own opinions become.
Exactly.
Okay.
So that's a big one.
That's a big one.
What's the fourth strategy for building those rational thinking muscles?
Okay, fourth strategy.
This one's all about logical problem solving.
Logical problem solving, okay.
The article specifically highlights a technique called the 5 whys.
Okay, the 5 whys.
And it's a lot simpler than it sounds.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
All right, so imagine you're faced with a problem.
Okay.
Let's say you keep missing deadlines at work.
Okay.
The 5 whys technique encourages you to repeatedly ask why until you uncover the root cause of the issue.
Okay.
So you might start by asking, why am I missing deadlines?
Okay, why am I missing deadlines?
And maybe the answer is because I'm taking on too many projects at once.
Okay, because I'm taking on too many projects at once.
Right.
Yeah.
Then you would ask, why am I taking on too many projects?
Why am I taking on too many projects?
And maybe the answer to that, because I have trouble saying no to my boss.
Because I had trouble saying no to my boss.
Right. And then you just keep asking why.
Okay.
Until you get to the heart of the issue.
Okay.
Which might be something like, because I'm afraid of disappointing people.
Okay.
Or because I need to work on my assertiveness skills.
So it's like peeling back the layers of the onion until you find the real source of the problem.
Exactly.
I like it.
Right.
Seems like a really helpful tool for just getting clarity.
It is.
And figuring out where to focus your energy.
It helps you focus your energy.
All right. So we've covered mindfulness.
Yes.
Self-reflection, diverse perspectives, and logical problem solving.
What's the fifth and final one?
What is the fifth and final strategy?
Cultivating a growth mindset.
A growth mindset.
Yes.
I love that.
It's the belief that you can constantly improve your capacity for reason.
Okay.
Even if you haven't always been the most rational person in the past.
It's like saying,
it is.
Hey, I'm not perfect.
Exactly.
But I'm always learning and growing.
Yeah, I love that.
I'm a big fan of the growth mindset.
It's so empowering.
Yeah.
So instead of beating ourselves up when we make mistakes, how do we encourage that growth mindset?
Okay. How do we do that?
When it comes to rational thinking, the article emphasizes the importance of celebrating small wins.
Celebrating small wins. Okay.
Every time you catch yourself about to react impulsively and you choose a more reasoned response, that's a victory.
Okay.
Every time you actively seek out a different perspective.
Or you use the 5 whys technique.
To solve a problem, that's progress.
Okay, so it's like giving yourself a pat on the back.
You're celebrating those little moments.
Moments of mental discipline.
Yes.
Yeah, because building those rational thinking muscles.
It does.
Takes effort.
It takes effort for sure.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
You know, we've talked about how to cultivate those habits of rational thought, even when
the world
feels anything but reasonable.
Yeah.
But how do we actually apply these principles?
That's a great question.
In our daily lives?
Yeah. How do we take all this and actually put it into practice?
Right.
That's what we're going to explore in part 2
of
this deep dive.
All right. Stay tuned.
Yes, stay tuned.
All right. So we're back.
Yep.
And so far, we've been talking about this whole
idea
reason as a muscle.
Reason as a muscle.
You know those habits of thought that we can strengthen?
Absolutely.
To navigate this crazy world a bit better.
It's like a mental workout.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But now I'm ready to get specific.
Okay.
Like, how do we actually put these strategies to work in those messy real life situations?
Yeah. Let's start with relationships.
Okay, relationships.
Because let's face it. Yeah. That's where things can get the most emotionally charged.
They can.
Right.
For sure.
So the article highlights the importance of 2 things.
Okay.
When it comes to relationships. Deep listening. And setting boundaries.
Deep listening and setting boundaries. Yeah. I think we're all pretty good at like hearing each other, but deep listening seems like it's on another level.
It is.
What's the difference?
So it's about going beyond just the words themselves and really tuning into the emotions underneath.
So it's not about like formulating your response while the other person's talking.
No, it's not about planning your next move. Right. It's really about trying to understand their perspective. And this is key. Yeah. Even if you don't agree with it.
That's hard though.
It is hard.
Especially if you're in the middle of a disagreement.
In the heat of the moment. It's really tough.
Yeah.
But the article actually offers a tip that I thought was really insightful.
Okay, what is it?
It says, imagine that you're listening to this person through a veil of compassion.
A veil of compassion.
Yeah, it's like mentally putting on a filter that helps you see their vulnerability and their humanity. Okay. Even if they're saying things that are frustrating or hurtful. Right. Does that make sense?
That's a great visual. It's like reminding yourself that everyone is
carrying around
their own baggage,
their own stuff,
and their own
unique way of seeing the world.
Their own unique perspective.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So
along with deep listening.
Yes. Along with deep listening.
Okay.
The article also talks about the importance of setting boundaries. Now, this doesn't mean putting up walls or shutting people out.
No.
It's more about defining what you can and cannot control in a relationship.
Okay.
It's recognizing your own limits.
Right.
And communicating those.
Okay.
Clearly and respectfully.
So it's not about, like, controlling the other person.
It's not about controlling them.
But it's about having clarity about your own needs and expectations.
Exactly.
I like it.
Right. And when you have healthy boundaries in place, you create space for reason to prevail during conflict.
During those conflicts,
Right.
Yeah.
So instead of reacting impulsively or getting swept up in the emotional drama, you can take a step back, assess the situation, and choose a more thoughtful response.
So it's like you're hitting that pause button again.
You're hitting that pause button.
Right.
You're taking a breath.
Yeah.
And you're responding.
Okay, so we talked about relationships.
Okay.
What about the workplace?
The workplace?
Things can get pretty heated there, too.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Especially when deadlines are looming or there's pressure to perform.
A lot of pressure.
Yeah.
So the article talks about fostering a reason-based culture.
A reason-based culture.
At work.
Okay.
Now, you might think that sounds a bit...
It's a little bit.
Stiff or corporate-y.
Yeah.
But it's really about creating an environment where disagreements are seen as opportunities for growth and learning.
Okay.
Not battles to be won at all costs.
I like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So how do you actually...
How do we build that then?
Yeah, how do you build that kind of culture?
Is it just about being, like, nice to each other?
It goes deeper than that.
Okay.
The article suggests 2 really specific practices.
Okay, what are they?
Structured debriefs.
Structured debriefs.
And fact-based arguments.
Okay, structured debriefs and fact-based arguments. What are structured debriefs?
So imagine after a big project or a challenging meeting, instead of everyone just scattering, you take some time to reflect.
To reflect on what?
On what went well, what could have been better, and what you learned from the experience.
And this isn't about, like...
It's not about pointing fingers.
Pointing fingers.
Or assigning blame.
No, it's about collectively analyzing the situation.
Okay.
So you can improve next time.
So instead of getting all defensive.
Yeah, instead of getting defensive.
Or letting emotions run wild. You're creating a space. To be honest.
To be honest?
And objective about what happened. Right.
Okay, I like it.
And the key to making these debriefs productive.
Yeah, how do we do that?
Is asking the right questions.
Asking the right questions. Okay.
The article suggests framing them in a way that encourages reflection. Not judgment.
Not judgment. Okay.
So instead of asking, whose fault was this?
Right.
You might ask, what factors contributed to this outcome?
Okay. What factors contributed to this outcome?
Right. Or instead of saying, this was a disaster, you might ask, what can we learn from this experience?
What can we learn from this experience?
So you're shifting the focus.
Okay, so we're shifting the focus.
From blame.
From blame.
To learning.
Okay.
Which can completely change the dynamic.
I'm starting to see how powerful that could be.
It can be really powerful.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about structured debriefs.
Structured debriefs.
What about that fact-based arguments idea?
Okay, the fact-based arguments.
Does that mean we all have to be walking encyclopedias to get our point across at work?
Exactly.
No, not at all.
Okay.
It's more about the approach
to
disagreement.
Okay.
So the article's point is that when we ground our arguments in data, evidence, and objective information, we're less likely
to what?
To get sidetracked by biases or emotional reactivity.
That makes sense.
Right. We're sticking to the facts.
Sticking to the facts.
Not letting our emotions take over.
You know, I actually had a situation like that.
Oh, well?
Recently at work.
Okay.
We were trying to make a decision about a new marketing campaign.
Okay.
And there were a lot of strong opinions in the room. It was getting pretty heated. And I can feel myself getting defensive about my ideas.
Yeah.
But then I remembered...
You remembered the what?
This whole reason as a muscle thing we've been talking about.
I love it.
So I took a deep breath.
Good for you.
And I said...
What did you say?
Okay, let's step back for a moment.
Okay.
What data do we have to support each of these approaches?
That's a great question.
And just like that, the whole conversation shifted.
Wow.
We started looking at the numbers. We identified the key metrics we wanted to track.
and we were able to make a decision that everyone felt good about.
Yeah. That's amazing.
It was pretty cool.
That's a perfect example of how these principles can play out in real life.
Yeah.
You didn't ignore your emotions.
Right.
You just chose to use reason.
To use reason.
As a guide.
As a guide. Exactly.
So we've talked about relationships.
Okay.
We've talked about the workplace.
Now
let's tackle the elephant in the room. The digital age. And its relentless fire hose of information, opinions, and, well, sometimes just plain nonsense.
It can be a lot.
It can be overwhelming.
How on earth do we stay sane?
Yeah, how do we stay reasonable?
Yeah, how do we stay reasonable?
In this world where we're
constantly bombarded with stuff online. Yeah.
So the article doesn't
shy away from this challenge.
Okay, good.
In fact, it dedicates a whole section to navigating the digital landscape without losing your mind.
Without losing our minds.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's their advice?
And guess what?
What?
Boundaries.
Boundaries again?
Boundaries come up again.
It's like the recurring theme.
It's like the recurring theme
of this whole
deep dive. Yeah.
Boundaries are important.
Okay, so in a digital context, what does that look like?
Like, what does setting boundaries actually look like?
Yeah.
It can be as simple as designating screen-free time.
Okay, screen-free time.
Each day.
So like...
maybe an hour before bed. Or during meals.
Okay.
It could mean turning off notifications.
Okay, turning off notifications.
Deleting apps.
Okay.
Or consciously choosing to unfollow accounts that consistently trigger negative emotions.
Okay.
It's about reclaiming your attention. Okay.
And deciding what you want to let into your mental space.
So it's like creating a digital detox.
That is
but in a way that's sustainable and realistic.
Right, in a way that works for you.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, what else does the article suggest?
So it also emphasizes the importance of something.
Okay.
That seems really obvious.
Okay.
But we often forget to do it.
What's that?
Verifying information.
Before
we share it.
Oh, yeah.
Especially on social media.
You're telling me.
It's so easy to get caught up in the outrage cycle and share something without really thinking about whether it's accurate or not.
It's true.
Right.
That happens.
So it's about taking a moment
to pause
before you hit that share button. And ask yourself some questions.
Like what?
Is this source credible? Okay. Is this information biased? What's the context here?
The context. Okay.
And most importantly, how do I feel about this? Is this something I want to contribute to the world? Those few seconds of reflection.
That pause.
Can make a world of difference.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm feeling a little called out right now.
We all are.
But in a good way.
I
know. I've definitely shared things in the heat of the moment that I later regretted.
It happens.
It's like our critical thinking skills sometimes go out the window when we're online.
They do. They just go right out the window.
Yeah.
But the more we practice those habits of rational thought, the better equipped we'll be to navigate this digital landscape with discernment and intention. Yes.
Okay, so we're back.
We are.
For our final segment on this deep dive into staying reasonable. In a world that often feels anything but.
It does, doesn't it?
It really does.
Right.
I mean, we've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
Haven't we?
A lot.
From mindfulness to setting boundaries
to fostering a
reason-based culture
at work.
Yeah.
It's like we've been giving our brains
a
workout in critical thinking.
For sure.
Yeah. And if we loop back to that idea of reason as a muscle that we've been talking about.
We've been talking about that a lot.
The article's core message is that this is an ongoing practice.
It's a practice. It's not this destination you arrive at, but a journey of continuously strengthening these mental habits.
Strengthening those muscles.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's not about being perfectly rational 100% of the time.
It's not about perfection.
Right.
It's more about getting better at catching those moments
yes.
where we're about to react impulsively.
Yeah.
And choosing a more thoughtful response.
Exactly, a more thoughtful response.
And you know, one thing that really struck me about the article was...
What was it?
It doesn't advocate for suppressing emotions.
No.
Altogether.
It doesn't.
In fact, it emphasizes that reason and emotion aren't enemies.
They're not enemies.
They're both essential parts of what makes us human.
They're part of the human experience.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's like finding that sweet spot.
It is.
Where you're
it's like a balancing act.
Acknowledging your feelings, but not letting them completely...
Not letting them run the show.
Dictate your actions.
Exactly.
The article uses a really beautiful metaphor.
I love this one.
To describe this.
Okay.
It says...
What does it say?
That reason and emotion are like two dancers, and when they're in harmony, they create something.
They create something beautiful.
I love that.
I love that metaphor.
So it's not about denying one or the other. It's about helping them work together.
It's about finding that balance.
Now that we're nearing the end of this deep dive.
Okay.
What stood out to you the most?
What stood out to me the most?
Yeah.
You know, it was that emphasis on the power of small wins.
The power of small wins.
It's easy to get discouraged.
It is.
When we feel like the world is...
Like the world is spinning out of control.
Spinning out of control, yeah.
Yeah.
But the article reminds us that every time we choose reason over reactivity.
Okay.
Every time we take a step back and assess a situation before jumping to conclusions, we're making progress.
We're making progress.
And those small victories add up over time.
They do add up. I think that's so important to remember, especially in today's world, where everything feels so... urgent. And intense.
Yeah.
It's like giving yourself permission.
Yes.
To slow down. To think things through.
Yeah.
And to make choices...
that are aligned with your values.
Even
when it feels like...
Even when...
everyone else is losing their mind.
Everyone else is losing it.
Yeah.
It's about
what?
Reclaiming your agency. In a world that often feels like it's trying to pull you.
Yeah.
In a million different directions.
Yeah. Beautifully said.
Thank you.
So as we wrap things up, I want to leave you,
the
listener, with a question to ponder.
Okay, question to ponder.
Remember that final thought-provoking line in the article? It said
what? If reason is a muscle, how will you exercise it today?
That's a good one.
Yeah.
So how will you exercise it today?
What small act of reason will you choose?
What will you choose?
Will you pause before reacting to a frustrating email?
Will you?
Will you seek out a different perspective?
Will you?
On a topic that's been bugging you? Will you make a decision based on facts rather than fear?
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Every choice we make.
Every
thought we think shapes the world around us.
It does.
And even though the world may feel chaotic and unreasonable at times.
It does feel that way sometimes.
We have the power.
We do.
To choose reason.
To
cultivate understanding. And to build a better future. One thoughtful decision at a time. I love it. I love that.
What a powerful way to end this deep dive. Thanks for joining us on this journey.
It's been a pleasure.
And until next time.
Yes.
Stay curious.
Stay engaged.
And stay reasonable.